The internet, of course, is the backbone of our lives, and it's a network of computer networks, as we know. It has risen at this point to almost 2 billion users, and with the mobile communication being at this point at 4.8 billion subscribers in the world, the mobile internet will certainly permeate throughout the entire range of human activity. And what is important to understand is that the internet, as all technologies, is a cultural construction. Could be many different forms of computer networks and many different practices deriving from the same technology. So the internet that we actually have today, which already is 41 years after the first deployment of the internet, has been built by a series of values and interests that emerged in these 4 decades from the creators and users of the internet. And it's important, therefore, to understand the constant reconstruction of the technology by the cultures and practices that are embedded in the internet. Fundamentally, in historical sequence, the internet comes up to now, and it will continue to evolve, from 6 different cultural sources. First, what I call the techno-meritocratic culture, that was, in fact, the original creators of the internet, people like Vint Cerf and Robert Kahn, who were the designers of the internet protocols, TCP/IP. These were, although funded by the Pentagon, by the US Defense Department, had no military application whatsoever. No one thought about that. And what it was really was the expression of the scholarly community of computer scientists, both young professors and the elders, and particularly graduate students. So they brought into the internet the academic culture of pursuit of science and technology for the sake of it, and with no direct commercial interest, to develop a new discovery. So it really is the traditional scientific culture, therefore open source, open access to every code in the key programs of the internet, because that's how the scholarly community has worked since the Middle Ages. On this developed something that we call, following Pekka Himanen and other people, the hacker culture, which is not what the media say the hackers are. The media talk about people doing bad things using their technical skills. These are the crackers. The hackers are simply people who hack, who love technology and who love to develop new programs. Cool technology is the most important thing for them. This started, the hacking culture started in the MIT Artificial Intelligence Lab in the 1960s and developed onward. And these are simply communities of people who work for the sake of finding new technology and having the respect of their community of peers. So it's different than the academic culture. They develop from the academic culture, but are people directly interested mainly in technological innovation, mainly in finding the new programs and then diffusing them immediately. It's a culture of freedom. It's a culture of diffusing everything you know so that your peers can pick it up and see if together they can do better technology. So it's a specification of the academic meritocratic culture of technology, and it's but it's much more important to some extent because it diffuses among a very large community of users, producers of technology that thrive into creating new programs. Then the third one is what I call the virtual communitarian culture, which was the original communities that developed in the internet age in the 1970s and particularly 80s was a big explosion. People that use the internet to build their own communal lives, their own interests, their own utopias. And they decided that this instrument would include an element of conviviality, an element of transformation of social relationships to be together, to create together. This actually has been very important because they were not technically very sophisticated. They just were good active users, but they were good at building community. And that was critical for the future development of the social networking that is now one of the major trends in the internet. The fourth culture is the entrepreneurial culture. The people who use their ability to understand and know the internet as a way to create new business and in fact an entire new industry. And these people were both producing programs and producing technology per se and producing firms. These people came in several waves and constant. Each wave of technological development has had a wave of entrepreneurialism, from the original eBays to an Amazon, then to Yahoo and Google, then to the social networking sites, Facebook and others. So here the entrepreneurial culture was essential because taking advantage of the privatization of the internet in the 1990s and taking advantage of the ability of users to use programs such as the World Wide Web developed by Tim Berners-Lee in 1990, then they were able to create businesses that would spread the use of the internet throughout the world. And really, it's essential to understand that was through the entrepreneurial culture the internet went from a small community in the millions, but not in the hundreds of millions, let alone billions as now. It went from a small community to the world at large was through the expansion of the entrepreneurial culture. And then lately there are two cultures that have been decisive. One, with the explosion of wireless communication, it also emerged from the hand of a new culture, which I call the mobile youth culture, because were the youth who really took on the uses of wireless communication and created a new form of community built on permanent connectivity and constant interaction that mixed online and offline, and created a new form and a new series of uses that then were translated into the internet. And finally, in the last 10 years, has emerged the culture of the social networking sites. The first major social network was in 2002, Friendster in San Francisco, and then of course Facebook and emerging from Harvard and through the entrepreneurialism of Mark Zuckerberg in 2004. But so and now we are in the 1.3 billion users of SNS only in a year. Now the important thing here is that there is an entrepreneurial culture there, but the most important thing is the culture that emerges through SNSs. The entrepreneurial culture allows sites like Facebook to emerge and others. But the most important thing is what is the culture that has developed in these social networking sites and why they had been so successful. The most important thing here is that people want to be together and do things together, not simply chat, but share project, share life. And doing so, they had built the networks of their lives. And because there was the possibility, the technical possibility to do it, and an easy way to do it through a number of sites that were being prepared, then people are now building their lives both offline and online, but always in continuity between the two. They are taking charge of their lives by building their networks of practice and sociability. The combination of these cultures has created the major system of communication in human history that is now with us all the time. So we live not in the internet, but with the internet all the time, and this will continue to evolve. New layers of culture will add to these 6 original layers simply because they are all open cultures, cultures based on free communication, on the autonomy of the individual, and the autonomy of the project that the people construct with the technology of communication.